So guys, are we good to go? Shall we start the meeting?
Yes, continue.
Alright. So good evening everyone. First let me know if I'm audible. Everyone?
Yes, you are perfectly audible.
Alright. Welcome to the Android Study Jams, where we talk about concepts and provide you a hands-on learning experience about building apps. I'm Sridarshini Mohanty of second year, Computer Science and Engineering Department, also as your host for this session. Here are some ground rules you need to follow. Please keep yourself muted and use the chat box in case you have some queries. Please do not spam there as it gets very difficult to address the issues of the audience. We do not mind if you want to turn off the video. Please let us know if you have any issue with either the audio or audio. Next. This is the final session of Android Study Jams. In the previous ones, you have learned about various layouts, views and view groups, functions implementation, building and sharing apps, and using Git. The prerequisites for this track is just to have the basic idea of what Android development is. By the end of this session, you learn how to create a fully functional app and publish it in Play Store. The agenda for today's session starts with a brief introduction to Android Study Jams, diving into track 2, what is meant by navigation, activity and fragment life cycles, architecture components, databases, recycler view, and connecting to the internet. Next. The first app we'll be learning about today is Android Trivia. The concepts involved are using fragments and creating navigation paths. Next. For the starter code, download the zip file from GitHub and run it on Android Studio, which would look like the emulator shown here. Next. What is a fragment? A fragment represents a reusable portion of your app's UI. It defines and manages its own layout, has its own lifecycle, and can handle its own input events. Fragments cannot live on their own, so they must be hosted by an activity or another fragment. Next, to add a fragment, go to File, New Fragment, and select Fragment Blank. Type in the fragment name as title fragment and layout name as placeholder layout. Click Finish. Now in the title fragment.kt file, delete the onCreate method and replace the code in onCreate view by the method by code displayed on the left. Next, at the top of the project level build.gradle file shown on the left, add a variable for navigation version along with other ext variables. Sync this file. Open the module level build.gradle file in the Gradle scripts folder. Add the dependencies as shown. Rebuild the project. Now Android Studio might alert you to add new versions to your dependencies by highlighting these lines. For that, go to File, Project Structure, and apply the suggestions. Next. Delete the placeholder.kt file and add a fragment to the activity main.xml as shown in the middle. Run the app, which would look like this shown on the right. Next. Okay, the second concept you are using here is navigation paths. The destination is any place inside an app to which an user can navigate. A navigation graph for an app consists of a set of destinations within the app. The navigation component is a library that can manage complex navigation, transition animation, deep linking, and compile time checked argument passing between the screens in your app. To use navigation library, you need to add the navigation dependencies to your Gradle files. Next. Create a new Android resource file named navigation. So as shown on the right, click on Res, New, Android resource file. Name it navigation, resource type as navigation, and click OK. A navigation host fragment acts as a host for the fragments in a navigation graph. It is usually named as navhost fragment. Open activity main.xml file And in the Code tab, modify your code to replace the title fragment with navhost fragment as shown on the left. Next. Now we'll add two fragments into navigation.xml, a title fragment and a game fragment. Make sure that the IDs are same as mentioned. If the game fragment shows a preview unavailable message, click the Code tab and add the highlighted code for tools in the game fragment. Now coming back to the Design tab, hold the pointer over the title fragment. A circular connection point appears. Drag it to the game fragment. This was an action you just created to connect both the fragments. Check that the ID is set according to the fragments automatically. Next. In Android Studio, open the title fragment.kt file. Inside the onCreateView method, add the mentioned code before the return statement as shown. Build the app and make sure that it has all the import it needs. For example, you might need to import the FindNav controller file, run the app, and the game screen will open as shown. Next. Now, we'll have to add two fragments. Open navigation.xml, click on New Destination as shown on the right. Add game over fragment and game one fragment such that they do not overlap with each other. Check that the IDs are same as mentioned. We'll have to add actions from game fragment to both of them. Notice that the ID for the actions have been assigned accordingly. Next. Open gamefragment.kt and add conditional code to the else blocks for game one condition and game over condition. Run the app. You'll get congratulations and try again if you win and if you lose, respectively. Next. In this step, you manage that when the user is at game one fragment or game over fragment screen, pressing the back button returns them to the title screen. Like on the left, select the action for navigation from game fragment to game over fragment. In the attributes pane, set the pop-up to game fragment. Select the pop-up to inclusive checkbox. Repeat the process for the other action. Now, we want the app to navigate to game fragment screen when the user clicks on next match on winning and try again on losing. Add an action connecting the game over fragment to game fragment. For the action you just created, set the pop-up to attribute to title fragment and clear the pop-up to inclusive checkbox. Repeat for the other action. Next. Now add functionality to the try again and next match buttons. When the user taps either button, you want the app to navigate to game fragment screen so that the user can try the game again. Add the highlighted code to the game over fragment.kt file on the left and game one fragment.kt on the right respectively. Next. We need to add an up button in the app bar. For that, we need to add some code into main-activity.kt file. Run the app. The button appears in the app bar on every screen except the title screen. No matter where you are in the app, tapping the up button will take you to the title screen. You may see fragment title written in the upper left corner. To change it to Android Trivia, open navigation.xml and edit the label of title fragment from fragment title to string/app as shown. Next, open the navigation.xml. Click on New Destination and add fragment about. In the layout editor, drag the about fragment to the left so that it does not overlap with the other fragments. Make sure the ID is about fragment. Right-click the rest folder and select New Android Resource File. Name it Options menu. Set menu as resource type and click OK. In the Design tab, from the palette pane, drag a menu item and drop it in the preview area. Change the ID to About Fragment and title to string/about. Next. Open title fragment.kt file. Add set has options menu as true in the onCreateView method. Add the code on the left into the file after the method. If the app does not build, Check that you have the import packages it needs to fix the unresolved references in the code. Run the app and text the About item that's in the Options menu. When you tap on the item, the app should navigate to the About screen. Next, add the mentioned line to the app level gradle.build file and sync the project. Update the variable version if required in the file, project structure, and variables. The navigation drawer will have two menu items, each representing a fragment that can be reached from the navigation drawer. The About fragment already has an ID in the navigation graph. Open the navigation.xml file design tab, click on New Destination, and add the fragment rules. Set its ID to rules fragment. Next, to create a navigation drawer, you need to create the navigation menu and put your views inside a drawer layout. In the layout file, right-click the rest folder and select New Resource File. Name the file as nav drawer menu. Set the resource type to menu and click OK. Go to the Design tab. Add two menu items by dragging them from the palette pane into the component tree pane. For the first item, set the ID to rules fragment, the title and icon as shown. Do the same on the left for the second menu item, that is the About fragment. Next, lastly, edit the activity main.xml file. Run the app and congratulations, your app is good to go. Thank you. Now Ashish.
Yes, Sudarshini. Thank you, Sudarshini. Good evening, guys. Hope you all are enjoying this session. I am Ashish Kumar Behra from Department of Computer Science and Engineering, second year, and I will be guiding you into some basic concepts of Android development in this session of diving into Android session 2. So, guys, the concepts we are discussing today are activity life cycles of an application and debugging using log statements. So, guys, all Android apps consist with various activities. So, guys, as we know that all Android apps consist with various activities. These are the building blocks of user interface of an Android app. Next slide, please. These activities hold various states, uh, and we can say that the state of an Android process is determined largely by the status of the activities. So, guys, as we know that all Android processes follow a particular life cycle while processing the data, which is popularly known as Android activity life cycle. So, guys, let's deep dive inside this life cycle. So guys, in this slide, in the left slide, we are showing the popular application that is Instagram, and it's clearly visible that we are demonstrated three major activities that is displayed on your screen, that are main activity, feed activity, and profile activity. Such kind of activities helps to build the app one by one. So moving on, in the right side of this slide, we have our activity life cycle, and now let's discuss about it. So at first, on creating the app, the main activity gets called and the app goes into onCreate state, in which it is non-interactable. After that, the app undergoes onStart state, in which the user may interact with the app. And at last, the onResume state occurs, where actually the user interacts with the application. So guys, after these three states, the app enters into the running state, where the user easily interact with the application. So now say that while you are using this app or any kind of app, you get a phone call from your friend. In that case, call app comes to the foreground with high priority. Then the previous app that you are using goes down to the background, sustaining a state known as pause state. And by using the method called onPause method. Sorry for inconvenience, guys. Okay. So from this state, if the user returns to the app, then the app resumes back to its running state. Else, if the user opens the new app with high priority, then the previous background app process get terminated and redirected.
So, guys, I think there has been some network issue. Our host will be joining us in a few seconds. Stay tuned.
Hello, please anyone confirm I'm audible?
Yes, Ashish, you are audible. Please continue.
Okay, sorry for the inconvenience, guys. Now let's start with the. Okay, guys. So now let's start from on-stop method. Okay. So guys, as you're watching the diagram, after sustaining on-stop state, if the user clears the background app to release some memory, then the app undergoes on-destroy callback and the app activity shuts down. So this cycle of various states of an app activity known as activity lifecycle, and it's one of the most important concepts when it comes to building a robust application. So now guys, let's moving on. Next slide, please. So guys, now let's discuss about our second topic, that is log statements. So basically, log statements hold the ability to pop out messages while debugging the app in the IDE. The class that consists all kind of log statements is known as a log class. This class consists methods to represent various process related messages from the execution process of an app. So guys, on using these log methods, we can keep on track of our application processes that are being executed during building the application. The messages that are created by these log methods are visible inside the terminal called log terminal of our Android Studio. So guys, without any further delay, let's start adding some log statement to our application, and I will be implementing log messages to keep in track of activities of our application. So Pratik, please kindly let me share my screen. Hello. Thank you, Pratik. Just tell me that my screen is visible or not.
Yes, Ashish, your screen is visible.
Okay. So first things first, guys, let's open up Android Studio. I have already done this. So, okay, guys. So the first things we need to do is download the pre-built Desert Clicker app from the link provided in the activity. That is the link that is present over here, guys. This one. So we will be working on this app today. Okay, guys. So I have done all the installations and updated all the needed plugins. So the first things first, I'm gonna find the main activity.kt file that I have already opened here. So that is inside our Java folder. So now, guys, we will be adding our log message right below the super dot on create method that is inside our overridden on create method. So guys, the type of log message we are extracting is a info log message, which is a string type, and hence we will be using log.i method that takes two arguments. So let me just add my log message. So this is the onCreate method, guys, overridden onCreate method. So below it, I'll be adding my log message log.i. Okay, guys, so here is an error. So this is showing because we have not added the import statement yet. So I'll be add the import statement by using alt enter method. Okay, guys, so now let's start adding. Okay, so this log_i method contains takes two arguments. First one is the current context, that is our main activity, and the next one is the message. So in this log statement, we'll be calling our onCreate method. So the message should be onCreate called. Okay, guys, so we have successfully added the log message inside our onCreate method. Now let's implement onStart method to the mainActive.kt file. So onStart method is the starting method when the app is got created, and then it just start running inside our Android process. Then the onStart method gets called. So we need to add our onStart method outside this onCreate method. So we'll be adding here. So in order to do that, first go to the code panel, then click on override methods and start typing on start. Okay, guys, so the on start method we will be using is here is a unit type method. So let's search about it. Okay, guys, so this one is our on start unit type method. So this method has been automatically overridden. So now we need to add our log statement. I am simply copying and pasting it, and I'll be changing the contents inside it. So the first thing is the context bar. So the context bar will be same as previous because we are still in our main activity, and here we will be changing the message as on start called. Okay, guys. So guys, this is how we add log statement to keep in track of our activity life cycle. So when running, so guys, if we run this app, then this one is our logcat tab. I hope it's visible. So in this tab, all kind of activities will be recorded. So okay, guys. So now I will be showing this method for all the states. So guys, now I am going to modify the log statements from log class to Timber library. So basically, Timber is a popular logging library that has several benefits over the normal log class. In particular, the Timber library generates log tags for us based on class name. It helps us avoid showing logs in release version of our Android app and allows for integration with crash reporting libraries. So guys, without any further delays, let's add Timber library to our project. So in order to do that, we need to open the built Gradle file, the app module one. So this is our Gradle scripts, and inside this, here is our built Gradle file. Let me just open it. Okay, guys. So in this file contains various kinds of plugins and various dependencies that we can change also, and we can modify it as per our need. So in order to add Timber library, we need to implement jackwharton.timber implementation. So I need to just let me add this implementation, guys. com dot jackwharton dot timber colon timber colon the version we are using is 4.7.1. So let me just add it quickly. Okay, guys. So actually, guys, this is the version that we are using, and the same version is also provided us inside uh, our this fundamental course. So, guys, let me just show you. Okay, so here is our implementation one. So this implementation we will be implementing in our code. Let me just again recheck it. Okay, so after adding this one, we need to sync our project. So the Gradle project is syncing here as you can see, and it will just take a little bit of seconds. Okay, guys, so my project has been synced. So after that, we need to create a class and initialize Timber library. So guys, in order to do so, we need to add the class in our Java folder. So let me just, okay, so now right click on the com.example.android.desert clicker file and add a new Kotlin class file. Okay, guys, so the class that I am going to create is the clicker application class. Let me just type it. Okay, guys, and the resource file type is class. Okay, so here we are with our new Kotlin file. So now, in order to implement this Timber library, we need to import our application class, that is a subclass. So in order to do so, I am adding this application subclass to this class. Okay, guys, so we need to import it. Okay, after importing, all kind of errors are vanished. Okay, so after adding this one, we need to add our on create method inside it. So the same process we will be following, that is override method and start typing on create. And this one is the on create unit function that we are searching for. Okay, after adding this, we need to add a snippet to initialize the Timber library inside the on create method. Okay, so the snippet looks like this: timber dot plant timber dot debug tree. Okay, so we need to import this timber library. Let me just click it again. Alt enter. Okay, guys. So now, guys, basically our library has been added. So now we need to change the manifest folder so that the Android can recognize this. So in order to change the manifest Android manifest.xml folder, all kind of manifest folders are present here over here. So you need to open this folder and search for the application tag. So the tag is displayed here is the application tag, and we need to show the Android that we will be using Timber library instead of the by default log class for our logging statements. So in order to do that, we need to add our naming convention here. Android name equals to dot. Okay, so here's a recommendation. So we'll be using this one. Okay, guys. So till now we are done adding our Timber library and change the default log statement into our Timber library. So after doing so, let me just modify our all kind of log statements into Timber log statements. So in order to change our log statements, I am opening again the main activity.kt file and searching for onCreate method first. Okay, guys, so this one is our onCreate method, and I'll be changing this log statement into the Timber one. Okay, so the Timber is now added. Let me just import this class. Okay, you may face this kind of errors because Timber library takes only one. This Timber function takes only one kind of argument. So we need to clear the second one in order to vanish our error. Okay, guys. So now I'll be change the message to on create called, and I'll be doing the same thing for the onStart method. And here the message to be shown is onStart called. Okay. So now, guys, we need to do the same for all kind of states by overriding them one by one. So in order to add all the states that are our on resume state, on pause state, on destroy, so this kind of states we'll be using now. So in order to do that, click the code panel and click override methods and add all the methods one by one. The first one is on resume method. Okay, so let me just find our on resume unit method. Okay, guys, just a second. Okay, guys, here it is. Okay, so now it's added. Now let me do the same thing for all kind of methods. Now the second one we'll be adding is on pause. This one is the method. Let me just add it. And the third one is on stop method. Let me just find it, guys. Okay, so this one. The fifth one is on destroyed method. Here it is. And the final one is, guys, on restart method. Okay, so all kind of major methods are added here. So let's implement our Timber message here. So guys, if you hover around this message, you can just watch this kind of message that is showing that it is from the mother class is Timber one. Okay, so now let me just add this one. Okay, so this one is on, this one will be on resume called. Let's just modify these message statements on pause called. This will be our on stop called. This will be our on destroy. And the final one is on restart. Okay, guys, so we are done adding this all these statements, and this is the major way that we'll be following in order to add such kind of Timber library into our project. So now I'll run this app in my emulator, that is Pixel 4, and it is suitable for API up to API 26. So let me just run this application. Okay, guys, as you are watching here bottom down, the Gradle files are building, and it will take just several few seconds. Okay, so now we are done creating our building our Gradles, and this is my emulator. Okay, so now my app process is started. Okay, guys. So, as you're watching, let me just reopen it. Okay, guys. So now I am reopening my application. This is the Android app that we are designing today. Okay, guys. So on clicking this, just watch over here, guys. So on just clicking this, we have on started called, on resumed called. Okay, guys. So these two methods are called on starting our application, and currently our application is running state, and we are completely able to interact with this app. Now I'm clicking one by one, and it's showing the cache capability that is this app is eating. Okay, guys. So suppose let me just illustrate it. Like suppose you are using another app, putting this app inside your background. Okay, so let me just open my Play Store app. So now this Play Store app is functioning over my foreground, and the previous Desert Clicker app is present inside my background. So see here, on pause is called as soon as I just put my app into my background, and after some time the on stop also called. Okay, if I return back into my Desert Clicker, then see on restart called. After that, the normal method, that is on start, on resume called again. So if I again traverse back to my foreground app, and if I clear my memory in order to free some memory, then see here on stop called, and just after that on destroy called, as the application is no more visible to the user. See, if you want to start this app again, you need to click it once more. Otherwise, inside your background, no app is running. So guys, that's it from my side. Hope you all enjoyed. Now I would like to address Devanshu to proceed further. And Pratik, you can start share your screen. Let me just stop my screen sharing. Hello, hello Devanshu.
Yes, Ashish. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Kindly proceed further.
Pratik, can you present your screen as the PPT? Hello, Pratik.
Yeah, just a second.
Yeah, sure. Yes, Pratik, just the previous slide. Yes. So, hello guys, I'm Devanshu Pritam from Electronics and Telecommunication Department, second year. Every one of you must be familiar with the term UI, that means user interface. It is one of the key features to attract users as well as making the app usable for them. Now, let's learn about the architecture components in user interface. First, view model. View model is a model class that can hold only those properties that is required for a view. It can also contain properties from more than one entity's tables of the database. As the name suggests, this model is created specific to the view requirements. A view model holds data to be displayed in a fragment or activity associated with view model. A view model can do simple calculations and transformations on data to prepare the data to be displayed by the UI controller. In this architecture, the view model performs the decision making. Coming to the live data, it encapsulates data. Live data is the overview part of Android Jetpack. Live data is an observable data holder class. Unlike a regular observable, it is a lifecycle aware, meaning it respects the lifecycle of other app components such as activities, fragments, or services. Live data is observable, which means that an observer is notified when the data held by the live data object changes. It is a wrapper that can be used with any data. Moving on. Now, what is data binding? As the name suggests, the data binding library is an Android Jetpack library that allows you to bind UI components in your XML layouts to data sources in your app using a declarative format rather than programmatically reducing boilerplate code. The data binding library works seamlessly with Android architecture components like view model and live data. The layouts in your app can bind to other data in the architecture components, which already help you manage the UI controller's lifecycle and notify you about the changes. Now, you guys know about the advantages of live data, but if it's not transformed, then it's not useful. To perform transformations on live data, use helper methods in transformation class. The transformations.map method provides an easy way to perform data manipulations on the live data and return another live data object. The recommended practice is to put data formatting logic that uses the transformations class in the view model along with the UI data. That would be all about the architecture components in UI. Thank you, and I will be now requesting Pratik Panda to proceed further.
Thank you, Devanshu. So now we'll be deep diving into the Notes app that will help us understand two major concepts: the database handling with the Room library and the recycler view. So, what are databases? A database is an organized collection of data, so it can be easily accessed, managed, and even modified at a later point in time. There are various databases such as SQLite or Firebase Firestore that can be integrated with Android. So why are databases required? As we learned previously, that when the app is closed, the data that was stored inside it gets destroyed. Even if the data is being shared across the activity cycle, it still gets destroyed when app is completely removed from the RAM. And some data elements might be needed for a future use, such as if the user was logged in, or some images that he had downloaded. So that's why to store the information, we need databases. So a very popular library used to interface the SQLite database in Android is Room. Room is a library that provides an abstraction layer over SQLite so that we can harness the full power without having to write much code. It reduces the logic and also can help us easily integrate with architecture components. So moving on to the components of Room library. It has three main components. The entity, that is, it represents a table within a database. A room creates a table for each class that has an entity annotation. We'll learn about it in a few minutes. The fields or members of the class correspond to the columns in tables. Now, these entities are generally represented in a data class in Kotlin. Next is DAO, or a document access object. These are responsible for defining methods that access the database. This is where we place all the queries that are needed to be made, such as the get query to get some data, the post queries to add some data, For every entity that we create, a DAO interface is required. Then the final component is database. A database is an abstract class that contains the database holder, and it is annotated with database and extends from the room database class. On the right, you can see how a app interfaces with the room database. The DAO object has all the functions or the queries that are required, and the entities defines what tables we need or what tables are already present in the database. This entity can help to get the data or set the values via the data access object. Moving on, using coroutines with rooms. Any query that has to be made to the database can take time to execute. So, if the query takes a longer time, it can it can even block the app to perform on the main thread. So for this, we use coroutines that help us to move the database uh, query process to another thread, so as the main thread is available to do the work. These have the following properties: that they are non-blocking and asynchronous, and these use suspend function to make calls asynchronous. Next part is a recycler view. What is a recycler view? It is a modernized version of the list view and the grid view classes provided by the Android framework. It uh, it addresses several issues like creation that was present with the list view. The list view would create all the list items at the time of the initialization of the app. So this would create some problems as it would slow down the starting of the app. So Recycler View addresses it by making the specific components that are currently needed on the screen. As the component leaves, it removes that particular element from the screen and re-renders the next component that was inserted in. This helps to minimize memory usage as well as providing better user experience. Also, Recycler View comes with various animations pre-built so as to help us with making various elements easier. What are the components of the recycler view? A recycler view has mainly two components: a layout manager that is responsible for positioning the elements on the screen, or the layout manager defines how you place the elements onto it can be of one of the following: the staggered grid manager. Here the grid rows and columns do not have a specific height. They can be of any height and any width. The grid layout manager, here the elements have a specific height and the width and are set in grids. So the number of columns defines the width of the element, and the number of rows defines the height of the element. And the linear layout manager is a layout manager that has a single row without any columns. The second most important component of the recycler view is an adapter. An adapter manages the data model and adapts it to the individual entries in the widget. It is responsible for taking the data that was defined and binding it to the individual entry or to the individual layout that was defined in the to be used. So now let's see how we can make or how to implement these concepts in Android Studio. So here we have a base application that has as you can see here we have the base application that has two screens, mainly a main screen for displaying all the notes that is currently empty, with a button to add a note. When we click on the button, it navigates to the add note screen that has two edit text views for the title and for adding a note. Now let's see how we include the room database first. For the room database, the first component that is needed is an entity. That is defined by a data class in Kotlin. Here is the entity. Here is a entity for the node that we need to build. So it is a data class node with a with val val or it title that is of type string, and the val node that is also of type string, and these are serializable. That means that the corresponding value in the column matches to these headings. Also, there is a primary key ID that is auto generated by the room database. So it's we pass the auto generate equal to true in the primary constructor. Now next we define the DAO or the data access object. Here we add all the queries that are needed for our app to function. These include the insert query, insert for multiple nodes, update and delete. Now these functions can take some time. So with the help of coroutines, we use suspend function so as to make them asynchronous and move them to a separate thread. Now the return type of the get query is a list of node type, that is our entity that we just defined, and rest rest of the queries are passed object that is of type node. Finally, we define the third and the final component, that is the node database component. We start by putting the add database annotation to the node database class, which is an abstract class of the room database. Here the entities are the node entities that we define, and the version is 1. This version helps us to track the changes across various database schemas. Here we are implementing all the logical functions that will be used in our app to access the data. Here we have the get node DAO that gets us the DAO. It is a volatile because it can be initialized at the runtime, or if it has some error or cannot be initialized, so it could be built afterwards. Now we move on to creating the recycler view for the home fragment. A recycler view will have two main components, that is the layout manager and the adapter. So for the layout manager, we will be using a staggered grid layout, or we can use a grid layout also. It takes two components. The first is a span count, or what are the number of rows, and the second is a layout manager class. Now for an performance optimization, if we already know the recycler view has a certain amount of items, so we can use has fixed size true, so that the size will be set at the compile time itself. Now let's define the adapter for the recycler view node. In the adapter class, this is an abstract class of the recycler view adapter, which is a parameter of class node view holder. This is an inner class defined by us, which extends from the recycler view.viewHolder view. Here we need to override few methods that are required. The first method is the on create view holder. It defines what happens on when the recycler view is been created. So here we define the layout to be inflated. The layout we inflate is a card view that contains the title and the node description. These are set in a relative layout. The the inflate takes three parameters. First is a layout, the second is a parent element, and the third if it needs to attach to the root. Here we have passed false. The second function that we need to override is the get item count. This is the size of the recycler view elements. Here we will be passing a list of nodes. So the size will be nodes.size. And the final function to override is on view bind view holder, that binds the data to the view on when the data is received or recycler view changes the data. So for here you are uh, here we have the title and the node description. So we are binding the nodes dot title to the title text view and nodes dot node to the node card view. Also, we are setting a set on click listener to the nodes layout on the node card, so that when the card is clicked, we can update the data that is present, or we can even check the data that is present in the node. For that, we are using the navigation host that we just learned. Moving on to the add node fragment. The add node fragment is derived from a base fragment class that is a class defined by us from the coroutine scope and fragment. It is an abstract class. So here, to add a node, we launch the activity and pass in the context that the context that is passed, that is a parent context, and we set a node of node title and node body. We get the data access object from the node database by passing the constructor, and then we pass the node into the add node function so that it saves the node. Or else, if there is an error, the it gets override. If the title matches once more, the data is overwritten. So since we have added the logic for the add node fragments, let's check if that's working. So since we have not yet pushed the adapter, so the first screen remains blank. Now if we go to add node, we give it a title of and we add some dummy text. Click on create. So it shows node save, and it also navigates back to the main screen. Now let's add the adapter so that it could display all the nodes that were created previously. In the home fragment, here we have the launch from the coroutine, where we pass the context by checking if it's not null. Then we pass the nodes. Then we call the get all nodes method from the node DAO, and we pass the recycler view adapter the nodes. Let's rerun it. So now you can see that the nodes are visible here. This was the previous node that was written. So when we click on this, since it has an on-click listener, it will automatically get the node from the database and display all the text that was previously written. Also, here we have a menu that can show if we want to delete. This is defined by the delete annotation that we in the DAO file. If we click on delete, it shows an alert dialog that asks us to confirm the action. When you confirm it, it deletes the node. Again, on adding a node, it gets added back to the database, and we can see that the new node has been created. So now moving on to the next topic that we'll be covering here is the images app. This uses covers the following concepts: the data fetching from the internet, the rendering of images from the internet using Glide, and creating views with internet data. Connecting to the internet. So here we sometimes our apps needs to connect to an API endpoint or a network endpoint to receive some data or to send some data. So in that case, for we can use some libraries that are already present to make it easier to call APIs. Retrofit is one such library, that is a type safe library client, HTTP client for Android. It models the REST endpoints as Java interfaces, making them very simple to understand and consume. The data that's received from the API needs to be converted into a Kotlin object. This is done by the JSON parsers such as Mochi or JSON and various other converters that can be found on the Retrofit website. Now let's see how we build this app. If we go, the API that we'll be using for this tutorial is the following: JSON placeholder.typecode.com/photos. It sends a response of an array of JSON objects that has album ID, title, a URL, and the thumbnail URL. But the main two things that we require are the title and the URL. If we access the URL in a separate tab, you can see these are the placeholder images of various depending on various colors. So moving on with the app. Here is a base setup for our networking app. This is a main activity. First, we need to add the dependencies for retrofit and the converter. So in the build.gradle file of the module level, we implement the retrofit, we implement the converter Mochi, and also also add Glide as we need to process images. The latest versions can be found on the retrofit websites. After implementing, we sync the project is already synced. So you need if Android Studio shows to sync up the dependencies, then do it. In the main activity, we are defining the base URL as a JSON placeholder.typecode.com with and with slash. So a retrofit is a type safe data HTTP client. So it needs the type of data that's received to be known already. So we first define the type of data that we'll be receiving in a data class called image data. Here, since we are using JSON, we are using Mochi, we will be The at the rate field annotation tells Mochi that the name of title should be put in the object that is received will have a element called title that should be passed into name, and a element called URL that should be passed into the image URL. Next, we define an image service that the retrofit will use to connect to get the queries to connect to the API. This is an interface that the retrofit will use. It has a function get images list that that is a call of list of image data. Thus, image data is just what we defined here, and it is annotated by the get followed by the endpoint, the URL endpoint that we need to use. Now, moving on to the main activity here. First, we define the retrofit by building it using retrofit.builder, passing the base URL and adding a converter factory that will help to convert the JSON to a Kotlin object. So here, as we are using Moshi, so we will be passing the Moshi converter factory dot create, and then we will be building it. Now you can use the image service that we defined. So we will be writing val image service equal to retrofit dot create. This image service is a type class dot java. Now let's define our method for getting images list. So here we have image service dot get images list. This was just defined here. Dot enqueue, since it is a network call, it will take some time. So it's enqueued, it's queuing the task, and when it is done, it sends a callback that is of type list of image data. Now it's an abstract class, so we need to define two of the members, or implement two of the member functions. These are on response and on failure. For the on failure method, we are just putting a log error message right now, and we can also use some error messages to be displayed on the screen. Inside the on response, we're extracting the image data from response.body, and you are checking if the image data is not null. If it's null, then there was some error. Now first we'll log to check if the data that was received is correct or not. Running the project and opening the logcat. Since it has a tag of main activity and a response, so logged into the info level, I will select the info level and search for main activity. As you can see, there was a lot of data received, that is of response image data of various type. Here is the name, that is the title, and the placeholder URL. This means that our URL is working correctly. If we change the URL to something else, this data will not be received and there would be an error. So moving the error is logged on the error level. So here you can see that it shows that unable to resolve the host, since the URL that we are providing is incorrect. Now on rerunning the app, it's only a blank screen, since we are not displaying anything, but we are just only logging it to the logcat. Now for displaying the images and the data that we receive, we will be using recycler view. So first I declare the images as a private private late init var of type list of image data so that it can be used anywhere in the program if needed. Then we'll define the layout manager for the layout for the recycler view that has a name of RV board as grid layout manager, and we pass the context as this as the main activity of context, and it has a span count of 2, that means the column count is 2. Since we can know the if the board will have fixed size or not, so we can also specify that the RV board dot has fixed size so as to optimize the loading. Next, we define the adapter for this RV board. This RV board adapter is a image board is of type image board class that takes two arguments, the context and the images list. On this image board adapter is same as we discussed in the database part. It also has three main components that we override: the get item count, the on bind view holder, and on create view holder. This also extends from its inner class of view holder, that is an abstract class of recycler view holder. Here inside the get item count, since we are getting the images data as image data, so the total number of elements to be displayed is image data dot size. On create view bind holder, we will be passing a view that is a layout inflator that inflates from r.layout.card layout. This card layout is a card view with an image view and a text view of ID TV name, and the image view is an ID image of image view. These are placed inside a relative layout. Next, on the on bind view holder, this defines what data must be bound to the card, say each card. So to bind the card to bind the data to the card, we are using a bind function that passes in the position. Here we are defining the function that we pass. Also, we are extracting the image view and title from by find view by id r.it.tv name and r.id.image view so as to use them further. Now we will be using the glide to load the images. Since images cannot be directly read from the cannot be directly downloaded by the Android interface, we are using a glide to help us to load the images. For this we use glide, then we pass with the context, then the load URL. Here I have defined the load URL as a load glide URL, where I pass the image data position. This means the currently, since this view holder runs for every card, the current position, the image data on the current position has an image URL that we pass here, and then we load into the image view. Also, we set the title.text to be image data position of name. So on running the app, you can see the various images are loaded up. Also the title is being displayed here, and also it has a very there are a lot of images that are being loaded, so it takes some time. So this demonstrates how we use recycler view, databases and networking. Now I would like Shri to take over for the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Prateek. Alright, so we have come to the end of this journey with Android. All of you can use these concepts to participate in the Google Solution Challenge by presenting your apps and have a chance to publish it on Play Store. For that, you need to fasten your pace and complete the tracks by 25th January. You will need to submit one APK, which may or may not be from the study jams, along with a screenshot of developer profile consisting of the 10 badges of prior to programming track. Form will soon be shared in the group. Thank you all for attending the session and keep coding. Thank you.